So what's next? You're a criminologist by profession. I want you to explain it to people that what does a criminologist do and why do you do what you do?
Well, the simplest way of making someone understand what is a criminologist, I'm a crime expert. That's the easiest way to explain when it comes to India or in general to people who are not from the legal fraternity. Ideally, I've done honors in criminology from the UK. This was almost 15 years ago, maybe 18 years ago,
Right.
when I chose. But almost like somewhere around 19, 20 years ago, I had to do my research work. Even now, it is not much heard. But thankfully, after doing a lot of crime education sessions all across the country since almost 14 years, the understanding of crime and criminal behavior and criminology has begun. There has been a lot of colleges who have started courses in the disciplines of crime. Even a couple of universities have started up as well. But somehow I can claim that it was not existing when I started off.
That's great. So I was also told that you've had a lot of you've studied a lot of paranormal activities. You've experienced a lot of paranormal activities, and I actually want to get into that for a bit. Can you tell me firstly how did you get into it firstly, and what were your experiences?
So this was technically my first case when I came back to India. Although it was a recovery of a property, but it was been tagged as X location, ghost house. But apparently there was only one family which managed to stay in that ghost house for the longest time.
Okay.
I was being given different families or different set of people who tried to live there, but they couldn't sustain for more than a couple of months or so.
What used to happen?
There used to be all sorts of things that used to happen there, right from so apparently the final family were my clients. So I asked them what exactly happens. And then I asked them the history of the bungalow as well. So they told me that there are two oldies, one male and one female, husband and wife. They keep having their arguments and they keep on having different sorts of regular daily shows, which is happening constantly. So it was as good as the oldies are still living there like any other married family, and they didn't allow anyone, any kid to be more specific, to be around them, due to which no kid could even come near the fencing of that particular bungalow. And then I was wondering what is the history of that family. So they told me that the son or the daughter, they used to live abroad and they were left alone back here. So apparently they became more aggressive, the souls or the ghost, towards anyone who are kids. But then apparently the kind of family which was alive and living there, there was a gap of almost 5 to 6 years for their first child. And they had a combination of a boy and a female and a girl. And the way this kid used to look at me was very spooky. And I
Okay.
was actually wondering that is he trying to tell me something? And this was 4, 5 year old boy, and the girl must have been 6, 7 years old or something of that sort. Then I actually asked that as per your religious background, when I talk about your property, your child, especially your son, he brings up something which I don't feel a person of that age can know or can even refer to.
Like what?
Whether it is the details of the property or the details of the activity that is happening. So there was a sense of fishiness in the entire legal case. And then I actually asked, did you do any kind of puja part or any kind of activity? And then she did mention that we did that when her in-laws or her mother-in-law did all of that. and apparently the soul of the husband went in the boy and the soul of the wife went in the daughter. And
Oh.
because of that particular reason, that family was the longest one who could ever live in that property. Eventually, there was a builder. He landed up in jail after that, who wanted to buy that property, and I don't know what happened after that particular deal. But my work was only to get the documentations work done, because when you're getting into a property, you need to mention certain history and the ownership trail as well. And this is what I had found at that time. I
Yeah.
never got inside the bungalow when they were living, so I myself didn't get the opportunity to be inside. But from the outside and from the parking lot, and when the family shifted to a new house, that was my set of experience when it came to paranormal
Where was the bungalow?
in Bombay.
Where in Bombay?
I will not mention that, but one of the beaches. And there are many beaches in Bombay. So it's
So
somewhere
something
near
around Juhu Beach.
But there are many beaches in Bombay.
I think it's Juhu Beach.
I will not
So
mention.
this was your only paranormal experience?
I didn't feel like doing any other cases of those kind, but I have handled a lot of cases when it comes to religious backgrounds and religious elements.
Okay.
Because when it comes to such scenarios, so it's something like you do understand the aura and the vibe from a person or a location, and that does become your first reference point of, do you want to take up that case or not? Do you feel like
Right.
speaking with that person or not?
Like a vibe.
Yeah. So whether you call that as a vibe or you call it as a
Aura. Yeah.
energy of having some ghost around us, it is up to the subjective scenarios that again we feel. I might feel it, you will not.
Right.
In that particular case, because I had studied a lot of those things.
When you study a lot about like paranormal activities or supernatural activities, these things tend to happen to a person who studies it.
No, it's nothing of that sort. It's something like you can't call a doctor a mental person because he's handles a lot of mental people.
I agree,
But that's a standard statement which is made. Like the doctor of a mental hospital is a
that's the
bigger
thing.
mental
So
person.
I would actually ask this
So-
to someone. That's why I'm asking this.
So
to you.
I mean, to be honest, one of the immediate lot from my set of interns, she's been having a particular body ache because of her understanding that it has been done for a purpose, and due to that, she's been on and off when it comes to working as well. So although I did ask her the same question, and then she gave me her list of scenarios, what all black magic is happening at her residence, and then which all tantrics and pandits and different kinds of people she and her mother had to go and meet to get her out of it. बुरी नजर तो रोज ही निकाल रहे होते हैं. And this is not just in one religion, this is in all the religions,
Right.
whether it is Hindus, Muslims, or Christians, or whoever you can think of. Everyone have it of some or the other kind.
Like,
So
do you think like paraspiritual beings are more to do with like religious or superstitions that they had followed after, like before their death? That happens.
well, again, that is something that would you prefer handling a case of that kind or not?
Have you handled?
Ideally,
Have you
ideally,
handled?
I have handled many of those cases which has some
Can you
or the
tell me
other
one story?
religious issues. And this is, well, technically it is very common when there is any property involved.
Yeah.
Or rather, I should call it specifically when a property is involved. Either it has been built on a graveyard and no one was aware, or someone has been dead for some reason which was not meant to be. And then you get into those set of vibes. Or
Right.
there is always something or the other always happening there. So there is one property or one particular building which is constantly under fights. The fight doesn't end at all because it's been believed that one particular vastu of a particular structure is not at the right location. Now, either you
Yeah.
land up breaking and relocating, which is not possible when it comes to certain situations. Same thing happens back in the UK as well. Well, I would not know if something has happened to me as well, because most of the time the person who's suffering it, they don't realize that something is actually happening.
Really?
But that's what I've been told at times, because eventually there's always someone else who's telling you that this is how you've been behaving, or this is how you landed up doing something. Because most of the time, even a person who's uh, feeling or getting into that vibe, it can be shown as a psychological issue of some kind, or there's a mental health care issue that the person is facing. So
Right.
it becomes very subjective who would accept that I'm actually facing something paranormal in nature.
So
And those
it's
who accept, those are usually religious people.
okay. So it's usually they don't realize it, but it's someone like a close friend or close relative that keeps telling them that something's happening.
Family, friends, some or the other person will say.
Right.
Some say that this was back in the UK, that the ones who practice, or the one who keep on getting the vibes, their teeth gets black, or they start getting spooky of those kind. Currently, there is a drug which is going in one of the states in America, that is actually making you zombie. And
What's the drug?
have a Google search. They are actually behaving as if they a paranormal situation is happening to them. And then it is also getting into a situation of flesh eating after they have been taken that drug. And it is literally going nuts, because it is slowly moving towards the situation of the entire city becomes zombie. They're literally behaving like
Who
those.
created this?
It's a combination of two different drugs been combined, which is not meant for humans. It is meant for horse and other animals. So it doesn't come under the certification of the
So-
regular
so
medical.
What's the story that like when a person he took it, he became a zombie for real, and then like
Not became a normie. He's actually roaming around like a zombie. And a good number of people are actually roaming around these streets like zombies, like having all their heads and bodies and twisting as if they've got fits or something.
what's the story there?
You will.
This actually comes from a rave party video where this girl was arching and walking backwards with her eyes fully white, like white. Her eyes
That
were
was just the
fully
beginning, but now it's
white.
become a concern.
Apparently your arms and legs also twisted. It's a mix of DMT and something. I forgot.
I'm bad with
Yes,
medical
it's a mix of
words.
things. Yeah, DMT and something.
And the same thing.
So it was found at a rave party.
Once upon a time, it was found in a rave party. Now it's a city thing.
So Go
And
Gone is actually a
same
real
thing. It
movie.
happens. Like
I mean, yeah, but this is like real life scenario, right?
this is actually happening
Yeah,
right now.
exactly.
As we are speaking, it is becoming a big concern. How much and what all you're gonna ban?
What are you gonna do? Like, what is the government gonna do about it?
That's what I was telling you. How much and what all you can ban. It is very subjective when it comes to this. Now, rather, I had gone to Kumbhalgarh in Rajasthan.
Yeah.
Now, the story of Kumbhalgarh Fort is that one of the person, or was it a pandit, or I can't remember the exact story. He had mentioned to the king, because he couldn't build the entire fort properly, which is supposed to be the world's second longest wall in the world. That wherever my body, first I will put X thing, there will be the first gate. Then I will behead myself. Wherever the head falls, that's the second gate. Wherever my body falls, that's the third gate. Now, in the entire my journey from the train station to Kumbhalgarh with my friends, we kept on looking at red dupattas on different trees and plants and stuff, and I was asking, what the hell is this? So I actually made a video with the person who was the cab driver, and he mentioned that everyone keeps on looking a beheaded person suddenly walking, so no one goes in that city in the night. And then there are scenarios of lot of men and women who keep on getting some sort of atmas in them, and then they go to the village, they get them out, and then once it is done, then a red cloth has been tied with the tree.
Okay.
And that's the entire city which faces it. So there are many, not just one or two, not just the case that I've handled. I've also been to the entire city which is
Okay, tell
talking
me.
about
Okay,
it.
tell me one more. Like I can go on another hour where you just tell me these kind of stories.
I mean, there's insane numbers.
Tell me one more.
Um, this was back in north part of India. And when the partition happened, there has been a lot of Havelis in both the sides, and the Havelis were not being taken over by one family. Parts of it was being taken over by multiple families, whoever
Okay.
managed to be in whichever location. So the ones which didn't manage to be taken were the ones where there were families being cut off, and people can continue to hear sounds and different sort of scenarios. Rather, the easiest one is also the Patiala temple. I don't know if you've heard of it or not.
I
So
haven't.
Kali Mata's temple, you are pouring alcohol, and there is one door which is completely locked, which is meant. I mean, you hear and you have um, sounds coming out of it.
Okay.
Because Kali Mata has some ritual of pouring alcohol. There's one entire well full of alcohol. Desi, Firangi, foreign, all kinds of alcohol has been poured in that. And that has a door which everyone is aware of, that this door inside, there are situations that keeps on happening.
Like what is the situation exactly? Like alcohol.
No one goes inside it at all. So you can just click a photo or have your small video outside the temple, outside that particular door, and just understand that it does exist. If at all you wish to understand, or if at all you wish to accept.
What's the
uh,
story behind it?
I don't want to get into religious now, so let's not
No, but
get into
I
it.
just wanted for context. That's
Uh,
all.
I mean, they have their own beliefs that Mata comes there, or there are different situations, and this tag that Mata comes to some women, that is also referred to some soul or the god coming in a
Yeah,
human.
yeah,
So that is
yeah.
a very standard thing when it
Yeah.
comes to Hindus.
That's yeah.
When
common.
it comes to Muslims, they call it genie as well.
Yeah.
So genie comes into them.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with the Christianity as well. They have different kinds of witchcrafts, and they have different kinds of scenarios. Probably the Da Vinci Code movie also has bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
And now there is a series of different movies that will talk about the weird set of activities when it comes to supernatural activities.
Right.
So
Right.
it's again in every religion.
So what is in that like temple? Like what's the story?
You're again getting back to the same
I
topic.
just
when
want I just want context. Like
the context
alcohol,
is very
but
clear.
what alcohol? Like why is the alcohol in the temple? Like to do what?
Why the alcohol is in the temple? That is one of the offering that you're giving to the Kali Mata.
Okay.
Alcohol has also been offered by Chinese to their gods as well.
Okay.
Because I know that because when I was staying in Singapore, so I had seen, and even I was wondering what is happening. So cigarettes and alcohol was offered there as well. So when Chinese have their own version of supernatural situations of different kinds.
Right.
So alcohol being poured as part of offering is a very old ritual of that temple.
And they say that Kali Mata comes there to
In the locked room, which is not open for
Right.
anyone.
Right. And what was the story with the border, India?
No, it can be some other version of story as well. So please disclaimers attached to it. I
Yeah.
might be wrong, or whatever I
Yeah.
have understood after visiting is what I'm mentioning.
Yeah. What was the India border story?
So
India-Pakistan?
Havelis always have old relation with supernatural powers
activity.
and supernatural activities. So when it comes to Havelis in north part of India, because it was the border location, the cries are still there. That's what they say. The cries are still there. The kind of stress that was there with them, or they carried with them while living their life, that's something which has always been there. So in a way, certain families start getting adjusted to it, just the way leopards have become pro with humans and living in middle of the city in Bombay,
Yeah.
Mumbai. So that is something which a lot of people start getting into a feeling that you just have to adjust with what is happening around you. Now, those who understand it, well and good. Those who can't understand it, they have been diverted to spirituality, and the ones who are completely failing with coping with it, they
They
also
shift.
die.
Okay. Nobody shifts or what? They don't move
How
out
many
of the house.
locations? So when it comes to supernatural, I don't think anyone believes that it goes away after you shifting from one location to another.
Really?
It can go along with you as well. When I was studying, that's what I've been understanding things. I have not directly faced anything, but there's always an element, of course, which sticks with you, is what has been believed by.
Yeah. So how do you tackle that?
Now, unfortunately, I'm not a pandit or a
No,
religious
but like
person, so I can't
your
I can't
opinion,
give you
just
an answer for that. But again, it is no different than what we do when it comes to handling crime and terrorism. You have to satisfy everyone. You satisfy the need, it might get regulated or it might get stopped. You can't stop crime, you can't stop terrorism, you can't stop supernatural activities. You have to satisfy the requirements of that particular person, or dead or alive. Let's keep it that way.
can you define satisfy the person?
Sorry, what?
Satisfy the person. The
Satisfy. I mean, satisfaction of different kind. I mean, if it's a
like
dead person
Bali.
and he is dead because of a particular problem that was been created by you or your forefathers,
Yeah.
you need to satisfy them. Whether it is called Pitradosh, which is technically also referred to your forefathers were not being treated well, and you need to finish certain rituals to have it
Got it.
completed.
Okay.
That is basically satisfying a
Satisfy.
particular spiritual requirement.
Right.
Similarly, if the bad set of the post-crime trauma is not just for humans but also for the dead.
Okay.
So a lot of dead souls are also sticking around because a particular crime had happened with them.
Yeah. That's
And
what
because
also
of
what we
that
see in
particular
movies.
crime, you're still there.
True. That's also what we see in movies essentially. Yeah. Okay.
I hope that satisfied your
That
requirement.
yeah, that did. Now, like you said before that, when you studied it, it was not very common, and like it is right now, right? So, can you tell me what got you started in that?
So it was all started from my family scenarios back in my teenage, pre-teenage. My dad had shifted from being a full-time job person to business. So he was the first generation who switched from job to business.
Okay.
And I'm technically a first generation who's been into business. So there were a lot of family commitments that had to be handled when you're entering a complete new segments, especially when 7 generations have been full of engineers and doctors. No one has any clue about how business have been run. You need a helping hand.
Right.
I got fascinated from there. And then when you're in business, you get to observe different kinds of professional sectors. So I was in that mindset that I want to learn every profession in that innocent mind. Initially, I was thinking of doing defense management, assuming that's the only profession that handles crime. Then I found international relations. So I was studying international relations for a year. This was in London. So I went to United Nations to have an experience how a diplomat works in New York General Assembly. Somehow I didn't get much fascinated. Then I got the privilege of the British system of having a post transfer. So I
Okay.
directly jumped to criminology and
Right.
ended up doing honors in criminology, because then I was specialized in a particular subject immediately.
And that's what kind of led you on your
Yeah,
entire
and
life.
then I had also understood that my mindset is not going to get satisfied with any job or me being under an umbrella of a job description. So I started my company Crimophobia in the UK. in my final year itself. So by the
Right.
time I was graduated, I knew that I'm going to be doing business. And now it's been almost 14 years of me handling crime officially under my own company banner.
Right. Now, coming to crime, it is actually very fascinating to a lot of people who don't know much about it. And that's why you're here, because you also are a fascinating guy. And that's why I want to, pick out two themes of criminals that are out, like have been very popular throughout history. One theme is like terrorism and terrorists, and the second theme is murderers or serial killers or sexual serial killers, basically. Like your Ted Bundys, your Jeffrey Dahmers, and towards terrorism, you have your other people that have been there since a pretty long time. So I want to get into terrorism first, and can you like tell me some of the traits that terrorism, the people who have been in terrorism for a long time and are very notorious for that, how have they how was their childhood that actually led them towards being a terrorist in the future? I mean, I'm sure there are some common traits that are out there.
See, as an organization of any terrorist or group, the first thing that they want is a lot of people view their terror rather than a lot of people die.
Okay.
That's a standard protocol of theirs. So even if they kill 10 people, the pattern which has been chosen and the way it has been broadcasted everywhere, that's what helps them become bigger.
Okay. Can you
And-
like describe that more?
So, for instance, unless I don't find a particular type of crime which will not have an effect of lot of viewerships in the current era of digital world and social media, where likes and followers is the main thing, this is no different than what happened back in the days when it comes to terrorism.
Like your
So the
Al-Qaeda,
concept of-
Taliban, everyone.
Every professional
Terrorist
terrorist.
group.
So the way you are always craving for attention when it comes to lots of likes, lots of followers, the concept came from them for social media because they wanted more people to view it. So whether you call social media a terrorist situation at the moment, you can always call it.
Right.
Because it is terrorizing the childhood of lot of kids.
Right. And do
Uh,
you think it's like the same way that
It
these
is
terrorists...
exactly the same with terrorists as well.
But don't you think it's like a radical thing for them? Like,
Radical
to gain
becomes
attention?
a topic.
Okay.
You're addicted to a particular topic. So radicalism is a topic of addiction for them. Same it's for gamers or other set of people who are wanting to make their reels everywhere.
Yeah, but this like terrorism is something very different. I
Because you
mean,
consider that as a
consider it
blood
different.
crime.
Yeah, we
So
consider it a blood crime.
what we have to understand is the crimes which are highlighting blood, only those have been considered as crime at times.
Yeah.
Any other mode of killing or any other mode of a person dying is not considered as crime as well at times.
Right. That's true.
For a start, in India, banning of social media apps or banning of apps which are one of the source of people dying have just started recently.
Okay. Then tell me this, like, you have your terrorist groups and you have your terrorist leaders. Okay. Now I would name a few, like most wanted criminal in India, like Dawood Ibrahim. You have your head of Taliban, which was Mullah Omar. Okay. So these kind of guys, what traits do they have in common?
So you've chosen two people. One is a modern Islamic person, and the other one is an Orthodox one.
Right.
Modern because he is not abiding by the Islamic laws. If it has to be mentioned in the literal sense, which Umar would specifically get into.
Okay.
If one is getting into Sharia laws, the other one is getting into the modern ones.
Right.
While the organized crime, the definition of organized crime came from people like Dawood Ibrahim, which never existed. Similarly, a small set of village can become one of the most lethal group that can also throw away Americans is the other scenario of Mullah Omar from being a Talibani, living in a Taliban-based community.
Can you tell me the stories of the two people that we just mentioned? Because a lot of people won't get the context here.
Well, when it comes to Taliban, one of the biggest element of theirs has always been honor. And when it comes to honor, this was also understood by all the invaders or the set of NATO's and other alliance of Americans and British and whichever country landed up in Afghanistan, that at times when they had to bomb one of the villages of Taliban, they used to throw chits that we are going to be bombing your location, so please
Steer away.
Please clear the village. And that was done because they didn't wanted anyone to get into the tag of honor that because you have killed my family member, now I'm not gonna like leave you or not have your situation cleared out from my mind unless I don't kill you.
Right.
So that concept has been prominent when it comes to Talibanis. And this is something which has been mentioned by almost every person, whoever have studied them.
Okay. Honor killing.
Honor killing because you have killed my family member or my father. So since they grow from early ages, they have been taught that you have to kill X person because they killed your father.
Right.
Or they killed your family member.
Right.
So they don't have anything other than that particular basic mantra in their head. So when you have that kind of a concept for a person, it's always gonna be the same. When we land up to a person like Dawood Ibrahim, he had his own way of and his own traumas in the streets of Dongri.
Like what?
Of being in poverty or being in a difficult family life or being in a scenario where luxury was not readily available.
Right.
So when you don't have X activity not readily available and then some easy activity can get you the access to it, then you become a criminal of that kind. In the course of time, you got me into honor as well. And the revenge was been taken for those activities whenever it's been referred to he being involved in 93 blast or other radical activities.
Right.
But his prominent face has been attached with luxury. And the prominent tag with Taliban has been attached with honor. So there's always one particular word or one particular topic which is attached to a criminal or a terrorist due to which they are committing XYZ. Now, why Talibans have never been tagged for going to any other country
Apart
and
from
bombing
Afghanistan.
or shooting anyone?
Right.
Because it is a village.
Right.
They have their own village principles. You don't harm us, we are not harming you. You come behind us and we'll do something that you can't even imagine. They are not even asking for any grants. They are not even asking for any money from foreign. They are not even loan debt like Pakistan or any other country. And they have made one of the largest canal and they are having their own irrigation system of a different kind without having any support, and that too in such a short span of time.
Yeah.
So that is something that is very much a village-based principle or a community-based principle.
Okay.
They will call it that they are self-defending.
Yeah, that's true. They
have managed to have their country back, and now they are progressing as well. They have a cricket team. They have so many other activities.
This was also one of the reasons why they started. Like back in the day, in 90s when they started, like Taliban was being formed. So Mullah Omar, he kind of saw the warlords raping the children and women in the villages, right? So that's why actually he also went against that, and he formed a group of people like his friends and whoever was there, and that's how the Taliban group was formed, right, to stand against the warlords essentially. But now when you see the Taliban people do the same thing to women and children, right? So how is like that radical, like that mindset kind of why they started and to now where it is, how has that changed over the years?
Well, the first thing that comes into my mind is Osama bin Laden was supposed to be in Afghanistan,
Yeah, suppose.
but he was being eventually found in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Now, if we have to consider the principles of Talibanis, they could have allowed having Osama bin Laden be in their own country while they are getting rid of Americans.
Right.
So when it comes to their radical activities against women, it becomes very subjective for us to understand why and what is happening there.
Okay. Fair.
It's something like what happens when a question comes for Khak Panchayat as well. Every community or almost every location, whether it is Maharashtra or Karnataka or India, Kashmir or Punjab, Haryana, any part of the world, whether that world is in India or abroad, every community has their own set of principles.
Right.
It has also been.
So how do they justify their principles in terms of the raping and killing?
I can't get into that aspect of how they justify, because a crime for them might not be a crime for me.
Yeah.
So I would not be in a position to mention in that specific words. But in general, when a particular perspective is being understood when it comes to how to justify a particular crime, it's as good as either everyone is a criminal or no one is a criminal.
Yeah.
You're not a criminal just because you have not been caught. Now,
Fair.
when it comes to America, it's the big dream for people.
Right.
But who is disclosing that tagline for the world to know about it? The Hollywood or the set of
America,
people.
Yeah. Like
But
it's a
don't
marketing.
they have extremely heavy set of rules when it comes to anyone can have a gun? You need license to shoot. You don't need license to
possess one.
own a gun. That's why people are scared of having kids, and everyone is literally got into that mindset, which is again a psychological issue, that you need to have guns in almost every part of your house. Because you don't know where a person might land up coming from.
Right.
So when it comes to their mindset and when it comes to the mindset of Talibanis, how do you justify? They are still radical towards black. It is the tagline is still there. Black Lives Matters,
Yeah.
and they are supposed to be the modern country or a developed country. So when it comes to justifying a radical behavior or justifying a particular type of crime, it becomes very difficult because it is principle based, it is community based, and it is geographical based as well.
Right. Okay, that's a good answer. But if you had to say some of the common traits that, terrorists have, can you say control freaks are one of them? Or is that subjective as well?
Well, it's not called control freak for them, it's called terror freak.
Okay, define
because they want to maintain the terror. Now, terror also has multiple types of definitions.
Okay.
Do you want it physical terror? Do you want it mental terror? Now, we have been
physical terror.
Physical terror is bombing and shooting and cutting and chopping the body parts or beheading people. Now, when it comes to beheading, for them or for the radical ones, or let's keep it one category of community, every year there is a particular celebration where you're beheading.
Right.
So the only difference is, what are you beheading now?
Yeah.
An animal or a human animal? So that's the only shift in their mindset, because it's normal, they've been doing every year.
Yeah.
In Hindi, you can call it as bali as well.
So when you look at it from that point of view, it makes sense.
Well, it is, that's why I mentioned every activity that you observe as a crime or as a terror is our principle based. It doesn't get into the minds of theirs, because most of the crime that they commit, or the most of the types of terrorism that they commit, they don't even consider it as one.
Okay. So then how would a person explain the psychological POV of, let's say, Dawood in the 93 blast, or him killing a lot of people maybe? How would someone
Well, when it comes to Dawood, he's been more famous for smugglings and extortions.
Right.
And when those set of people didn't had the fear of his name, he did what he had to do by executing or assassinating whoever he felt like, because he's not, or that particular person is not giving Daud what he wanted.
Right. So you think like it's more ambition based?
It is more
Whatever.
purpose based.
Purpose based. Okay.
I mean, every individual, whether it's a terrorist or a criminal, they have their own purpose.
Right.
And that purpose is not defined by the rules of the human psychology. It's been governed by the rules of the criminal psychology.
Can you
And
explain that a bit? Sorry.
so I've coined down terms, two terms rather, one for victims and one for criminals. I call it as post-crime trauma, and the other one is criminal behavior syndrome.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to these two terms, usually when it comes to criminal behavior, they are already into that mindset that they are not considering what they have done as a crime.
Right.
When I'm not considering my activity as crime, who are you to decide what am I doing? And why are you putting and tagging me with multiple types of psychological disorder when I have none?
Because for them, whatever
Technically,
they
lie
are doing,
detectors don't even work on professional criminals because it has the fundamental rule of your heart rate.
yeah.
And when your heart rate is completely normal, you're lying up front. So how is it gonna work? So when it comes to hardcore criminals or hardcore situations of terrorism, do you think the forces use lie detectors? They don't. They have their own ways to get the work done.
So that's how they tell themselves. Like, because for them, it's mainly like whatever they're seeing or whatever what they are doing, it's right for them. So for them, nothing is like whatever they're doing is wrong, basically.
So it comes with two situations as well. One is one of the post-crime trauma. In that post-crime trauma, either you become too much of a silent person and you're always in that sense of depression, anxiety, or stress, or whatever the tags have been given by the psychological industries with post-stress disorder, trauma disorder, and many other tags. But in case that person is not taking the path of silence and he gets into the path of aggression, then you have situations like Taliban, who has to protect a particular community and protect their own country.
Right.
And they have many other aggressions of that kind.
And childhood trauma also leads to that.
Childhood trauma is one of that element of trauma which I've been categorizing it as post-crime trauma.
Yeah.
The trauma can either make you silent or it can make you extremely violent.
Okay.
What you have, the end result or the end products are these hardcore criminals and terrorists. But they are part of the crime trauma.
You know, so people also see childhood trauma as a good thing because that builds you up for a better, like, successful life in terms of mindset and everything. Like, you can channel that trauma into something fruitful for yourself. But very few people actually even look at the negative side. Like, for me, negative side is killing, mass murdering, all that. So they also don't look at the negative side of how childhood trauma can actually lead to the these mass murdering, making of people who do all this, and how is it even like related? So can you explain like how is childhood trauma actually related to them in terms of their mind, like what goes in their head?
See, when it comes to childhood issues, either you can take it positively, but that positive element, you have to have a mentor. And when it comes to mentor, that mentor has to have some basic understanding of how counselings have been done as well.
Okay.
And then at the same time, it follows up with his principles are appropriate at that particular moment of time or not. Because when he is counseling a child, he's technically putting up all his principles or what is supposed to be good for that particular child. Now, it becomes very subjective to who is going to be the right person to counsel that little kid. Now, I have received requests from so many parents. One of the most difficult one was he was able to make homemade explosives at the age of 7 or 8. And when it comes to talking about explosives, he had viewed how to prepare them from YouTube. After
Wow.
looking at 500 videos, which technically means since the age of 6-7 years, he's been understanding how to make explosives, and highly educated person. highly educated family, studying in a top international school as well. When the same situation is shifted to a place like Dongri or the juvenile prison, or it's also called the children's home, and many other tags have been given. But ideally, what happens is the understanding of crime starts from the age of 6 onwards, is what we understand or we consider. This has not been considered by every parent or every human around. कि ये तो बच्चा है, इसको कहाँ समझ में आएगा?
So they let him do.
He's a small kid. He's not even able to understand what XYZ activity is happening. So whether the number of residents in one flat, and you randomly ask any law a person who's meant to handle situations of crime, how much are they aware of that counseling is one of their core job description? For criminals or for kids or for anyone who's becoming a terrorist, if they are first timers, who is the first set of counselor for them? The cops or the forces. But do we teach them how to counsel? That is not even part of the subject.
Right.
Same thing happens with lawyers as well. Lawyers land up doing more amount of counseling than psychologists, but counseling is not part of their subject. So lawyers don't have a subject of counseling.
Right.
And at the same time, when it comes to psychologists and psychiatrists, they don't have a subject of law.
True.
And both of them are interlinking each other's profession as well. And the middle section is called medical legal cases as well, which is just a stamp.
Which nobody
in the
knows about, I'm
hospital.
sure.
And that stamp in the hospital is only for cases which are again blood related cases.
Right.
But when the lawyers or the petitions are mentioning that X person has given me mental torture, I am mentally unstable, all sorts of words which is linked to psychology, they are using it for the sake of using it. But when the literal sense is being taken or taken up by the psychologists, they go in the in-depth.
Right.
But they don't know what are the repercussions of a particular mental trauma or a mentally unstable person when it comes to law. So a person can lose his job or lose his property or lose X amount of money or his entire case if he's been tagged as a mentally unstable person. But at the same time, he can gain or evade his capital punishment as well because he committed a crime in a mentally unstable position.
Yeah, like paradox.
So it's a situation where a medical professional will not understand how his report or her report can be used or misused by the lawyers.
So can you say that they're not trained enough, like each to?
No, what we need to do right now is add a subject of counseling for law and add a subject of law for medical
counseling.
Professionals.
Okay.
Which has not been happening, and that's why
it's not been happening in India. Or
in a way, globally it doesn't happen.
Okay, no, because I was getting to the point. Like I wanted to talk about the other theme of serial killers, like sexual serial killers. Okay, and these guys have been given like counseling and all since a young age, whatever they are, fantasies or whatever it was, and they have been given like proper counseling, which I would say like a person from Dongri would not have gotten. But still, they keep doing what they do. So why is that? Even after counseling.
So, I mean, I should not say luckily, but the whatever word can be adjusted to the situation. I have met one serial killer and saved one of my client from a female serial killer who's ranked number 7 in India by one of the news channel as well. It is readily available on Google.
What's the name?
Let's not get into the name because then I have to protect the victim as well.
Okay.
Now, the situation for that particular victim landed up being of a kind that for almost 10 to 15 years, he couldn't marry anyone. So apparently I was being called by him that this is the person that he wishes to marry, and she was a actor model. I'm giving lots of hints for you to figure out yourself. And then he wanted me to do a kind of a background check for her,
Okay.
appropriate or not, for a wedding. She was excellent when it come to her own presence and the drawing room. And this is something I mentioned in one of my interview.
Okay. Can you?
Because your subconscious mind or your true personality is at a location where you feel completely at
Comfortable.
liberty to do whatever you feel like doing. Now, when you have everything in a luxury and your toilet is one of the stinkiest one or dirty as well, that is your true personality.
Right.
In the legal fraternity or when it comes to the forces, they say that you can identify a police or a defense person from looking at his shoe.
Right. Yeah. That
It's
even I've
same.
heard that.
It's same with the killers of that kind. So this lady used to trap businessmen or rich people, extort them, blackmail them, and then chop them into pieces. And after almost 2.5 years, then this client calls me and tells me that thank God you saved me. Look at the news; it's everywhere. She's everywhere. So when it comes to the other sexual predators, the male ones that you're talking about,
Oh yeah. Ted Bundy. This guy. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jack the Ripper,
Yeah.
all of them have been tagged as one of those people who have been sexually active and then murdered the victims. One of them was a gay, other two were the straight ones, but they had their own way of what they want once they are done.
Okay.
While one of them was cutting throats of prostitutes just because he wanted to have the dominance of wanting to speak more than the other person.
This
so he
was who?
doesn't.
This was Jack the Ripper.
I think so.
Okay.
I've just gone through their traits and their behavioral patterns by looking at their photographs
No,
and
I'm
whatever
sure it was
information.
him. Like I think back in the day in England, like 1890s or something.
Right.
Some date. He killed like 12 prostitutes or something. 5 of them were like very similar. That's why the people gave him the name.
But the common thing about all these three has been that they chose a marginalized community
Okay.
who don't directly go for a particular complaint, or their complaints are not being heard. So
Ted
in
Bundy, whom did he marginalize?
college girls,
Okay. And
no one listens to college girls, and then they have a different set of blame. Even that happens almost in every country.
So Ted
that-
Bundy was college girls. Jeffrey Dahmer was gay people, gay guys.
Specifically marginalized poor boys.
Right.
And then comes the Ripper,
Jack the Ripper
prostitutes. All three has a common target that they would not be heard by the forces
Right.
immediately. So by the time the numbers grew, that's when they started observing the situation. So it becomes easier for a standard serial killer that when my crime is not going to get caught, then what are you going to be doing about me? And then there's another element that gets into their mind, that I'm challenging the forces, come and catch me. So that behavior also gets into their head, other than the sexual activities that they have done in the most gruesome way.
So can we for these three particularly, let's start from the top, why they were committing sexual activities after killing the people that they killed.
Well, when it comes to Ted, what I understand after reading, because I've not met him, so it's basically that he was already a law and a psychology student.
Yeah, very charismatic.
And that's the combination which has been prominent when it comes to a criminal or a terrorist knowing more about a psychology of one particular set of people which the regular set of humans are not been taught appropriately.
Right.
Until unless you go in their side of the world to
Hmm.
understand.
Okay.
So they are much bigger and better counselors and psychologists and lawyers than the other ones, because they have already defining law, they are already defining the patterns of psychology and other activities. So when he was being refused by all the other set of lawyers that we're not going to be fighting your case, I was okay, fine. How does it matter? I'll fight my case. And that's something which is happening now as well.
Yeah.
Everyone are starting to appear in person, because even the Indian government has, and the Indian constitution has the liberty for any individual to fight their own case
Yeah,
if the lawyer is not available.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
Now-
I want to like kind of diverge to the topic where why, like, what happened with them in their like parental background or with their childhood particularly.
So there's not much information available about their childhood issues, because whatever is available is subjected to what they wanted to confess and what they wanted to mention about their version of story. And when that situation comes in, it becomes very subjective to should we accept that or not.
Yeah.
Because we'll end up trying to relate our principles with his principles and the principle that he faced in his ecosystem of family, friends, and his own life.
That's true, because whatever I read on like the internet recently, it was like very vague, and it didn't make sense of why.
Right.
Like,
And then it
whatever
becomes a filtered version of information as well. Everyone have their own interpretation.
Yeah.
Even I was not aware when it comes to religious aspects. Every religion has different versions of their own holy books as well, location wise or country wise or the zone wise.
Yeah.
So that is also very subjective. So when it comes to such criminals, it becomes slightly difficult that what is the interpretation made by that particular police officer, and then how was it been understood by the judges, and then followed by other set of people who have recorded, whether it is media or other ones.
Right.
So when it
everyone
comes
has
to
their own
version,
interpretations.
so the version, for example, when a particular crime has been reported, you can take any crime. Now media would want more number of witnesses because they want bites. Same in the other hand, the police would want more of evidence. Because they have to report it. And when it comes to the judge, they want to understand the motives, intentions, and all the other psychological aspects. Now, the version of the same crime is being delivered in a different pattern altogether. So, which
Right.
one do you want becomes that part of the answer for a particular criminal or a terrorist?
Makes sense.
Because
Now-
the criminal behavior and the behavior which you can understand is different for everyone.
Right.
So when, as a criminologist or as a crime expert, when I make any report, I try to satisfy all the requirements of every psychological need. One for the politician, one for the terrorism, one for the judge, the police, the media, the goons, whoever is involved in that particular crime. Because your crime is not my crime.
That's true. But okay, it's subjective, but I'm sure there must be some traits that we define for some terrorists. I'm sure there are some traits that will be defined for these guys as well. So can you tell me some of the traits that even these?
So if we go into a reverse psychology,
Okay.
the end result of every person of these the three names that you had mentioned, end result has been, one is cutting the throat, which is directly linked to I don't want to hear your voice. The other one is cutting body parts for a souvenir. That is like a trophy for me. I have had a sense of achievement.
Right.
And the other one is having sex with the dead, which is technically that you are alive or you're dead. I'm still going to be doing what I need to do. I don't care about your thing. And having sex with dead bodies is also been a situation in many war zones as well.
Yeah.
There has been many cases with photos and videos where soldiers have had sex with the dead.
Which countries are there? Just out of curiosity.
There has, I mean, if I highlight, then again there is going to be a controversy that will defame and it has been in many other countries as well. So it is a very normal thing. Now, recently I've been hearing really stupid set of news debates from Pakistan as well. They have literally said that reports from Pakistan comes of having sex with any animal, including chickens. So I don't know
Didn't
if
know
that
that.
is really an answer or not, but I have saved that video in my list of weird crimes been reported
Okay.
for my general knowledge, that people can go to any extent. So for this particular criminal, it's still easier to have
Sex with a dead body.
with a dead body, or having the unnatural sex, which even the gay guy had done. His way of sexual satisfaction is of a different level altogether.
So the Jeffrey Dahmer, actually what he used to do was he used to call them home. He used to perform like he used to have sex with them, and then he used to kill them. But the thing was that he used to give them sleeping pills or whatever, make them sleep. Then he used to have sex with them while they were unconscious, and then he used to kill them. Which is a very, like, I didn't understand why. Like if you have that control over the situation, then you can do it while he's conscious, while he's unconscious, or even after you can kill him, you can have sex. Now obviously the fantasy might not be that, but why do you want to have sex with him when he's unconscious and not dead?
See, you're getting into a complete different debate of the different kinds of rapes being committed.
Okay, sorry.
Because there has been more number of rapists who put different kinds of drugs. The girl is unconscious. They are not even aware that something has happened with them until unless it's the morning and they are back in consciousness. So when
Okay.
it comes to even Nirbhaya case, the BBC document that was banned, it did have a small clip of the bite being mentioned by this criminal, that he's been caught and he's been put for media trial, but there has been extremely more gruesome and more brutal rapes than what he has conducted. That was part of the statement which was being made, as far as I remember, because it got deleted thankfully after I had viewed it.
Okay.
So when it comes to the level of crime, it is subjected to your satisfaction. How much gruesome you can get. And this has been a social experiment done by many women by sitting in a public place, and they have kept knife and a hair trimmer and scissors, and they have put a plug card. Do whatever you feel like doing, just for a social experiment to understand to what extent a human mind can go. They have ripped the clothes, half bald. They've made cut marks on her. Those has been a social experiment to understand these kind of criminal behaviors as well. So it's not just a criminal person or a criminal who has been caught who's having these kind of wild thoughts. It's also a normal human
mind.
behavior. You'll land up getting into the curiosity of wanting to know what happens if I'm doing so and so activity.
And do you think like once anyone who does it, they have a like need to do it again and again, and that's why they keep doing it?
Well, when I'm not getting caught and I'm getting the addiction to it.
Yeah.
So addiction to anything can make you do anything.
What do you think these guys like made them addictive towards killing again and again? Just your
Well,
opinion.
in the beginning, it always starts with a particular curiosity or a trauma.
Right.
So which one was within them is something some counselor or someone should have asked at that time, because now it is not available. When it came to me personally interacting with the serial killer, the female one, it was just wanting to have quick money. And it was not her intention at times. It was the other man who was being shown as a boyfriend, but a brother, but was a boyfriend. So when it comes to giving you hints about the case, there are a lot of hints for this serial killer that I have met personally.
Can you tell me one thing? Like, how did you find that she wants quick money?
why do you want a person to marry you only after you make X number of activities to satisfy the female?
Oh, so it was that evident.
It was that evident.
Oh.
It was like, you give me this, so I will come and get into the other aspect of your life.
Right.
Same thing happens with these set of serial killers as well. You give them X and they'll give you Y. If you're not giving them X, you're not getting Y.
Can you just give me an example of what that X can be?
X can be either sexual requirements, it can be any psychological satisfaction that you may get, it can be that you are wanting to look at someone's blood or a body part, or whatever someone must have poked you, due to which you have got into a trauma.
Right.
For instance, if someone is a power-driven mindset and you're showing too much of arrogance, then there are a good number of people who have arrogance as well. For instance, in Mumbai city, one of the most common thing, if you have said sorry after dashing or bashing or doing whatever, everything is fine. You have not said sorry, I'm going to drag your life till the end. That's a standard pattern of Mumbai, and this goes out of
Always a trigger, right?
and that trigger is always meant to be for satisfaction of something.
Like?
That something can be personal or it can be physical. Mental or physical. Either I'm mentally satisfied with carrying out one activity, or I'm physically satisfied and I don't want that physical activity anymore. Rather than you going and creating trouble for me, let me just kill you and just throw you out.
Right. Wow.
Because eventually you're going to be going and telling 100 people. So might as well you just go, because I don't want to bug my ears.
With any of the three guys, can you tell me one of the triggers that any one of them might have had? If you know about
I'm
it.
sure that all three must have had a childhood issue of some kind.
Yeah.
Because no one would want to cut someone's throat. That element of throat would have been with X number of comments he must have heard, X number of situations that he must have been bullied with.
Is abandonment also a factor in childhood?
When it comes to abandonment, it is subjective as well. Either you have self-repairing mode and self-motivation skills, then it doesn't matter to anyone. But if you don't have, then you're always craving and you're searching for some or the other source of entertainment.
And I'm guessing these people didn't have self-motivation to get out of it.
Well, again, that is subjective, because if I am going to a particular marginalized location, for instance, if I'm going to college, and Ted being one of those who picked up only college young girls, so he had amount of fascination and he had amount of excitement that would have come from those girls. But the same is not the same. It's not the same for the other two. One is going to poor location. So that is something he might be having a need to go to a poor location. The other one going to prostitutes.
Right.
Which is readily in the middle of the city. So the cops are aware that there are prostitutes here. But just like any other country, no one immediately listens to prostitutes and their complaints.
Yeah.
Because they themselves have a business of their own activity.
Plus, back in the day, nobody really did. Nobody really cared.
Well, even now, nobody cares. Even now it is a very subjective situation when it comes to caring and wanting to care someone.
Yeah. I mean, this was a very interesting conversation. Thank you for being here.
Most welcome.
Yeah, I had a really
Thank you
good
for
time.
having me as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Siddharth, Neil, and Varsha.